One of the questions I get asked most, just generally, is what dragon skill should I get with my fragments in the dragon skill event? And I will do a video detailing exactly how I would prioritize them as a tier list of sorts, I guess. But one of the skills people have a lot of trouble with, I'd say, is Dragon Assist. With others, it's fairly easy to visualize what they bring and can pair them against each other. So it's with Reinforcement, for example, basically 60k extra army size. With Reroute, 10% uncapped troop production onto your enemy, basically. Follow-up, Tear, Flame, to be fair, are a bit harder to visualize as well, but rally size, again, it's just a flat number increase. You rally with so many more troops. Like commander damage, bleed damage increase now. It just flat increases in damage, and it's quite easy to see and understand how it's strengthening your account, basically. Assist, you read the tooltip, and like, what does this mean, you know? So mine's at level 8, it says 9% on this healing coefficient. At max it will be 12 there, but for now it says when allied dragons launch an attack or trigger a follow-up attack, there is a 40% chance to perform an assist with healing coefficient 9% for the allied lineup with the highest proportion of losses. Now, yeah, it's quite intimidating as a concept, I think, but we can break it down. So, when allied dragons launch an attack, that's obvious, simple. Your dragons attack throughout the fight. At times depend on their agility stat, which varies based on dragon type, level, etc. So this can proc off that. But then, when dragons launch when dragons trigger a follow-up attack, there is blah blah chance. Follow-up attacks, quite simply, are follow-up, Tear, and Dragon Flame. So this is the commander damage follow-up skill, this is the weakness follow-up skill, and then Flame is the bleed follow-up skill. So each synergy type has its respective follow-up skill in effect. If you're running Flame, Sonara will obviously block active castings and weakness attacks, so you can't synergize multiple of these skills together when running Bleed. If you're running full female, you can only really have follow-up, because Jamie is male, obviously, so it doesn't synergize, and Sonara, whilst female, will silence all the commanders you run with her. But if you're running weakness, you can combine follow-up and Tear together to increase your amount of assist procs and the healing you get from that. You can of course also run female and weakness hybrids with, like, say, what would it be? Something like this, where it's Layla and then Jamie. Jamie has his enabler with Lats for weakness attacks, but there's 4 females to proc Layla, so you have the synergy there as like a mid-spender synergy hybrid. Now if we go back to the tooltip of Dragon Assist, 40% chance to perform an assist with healing coefficient 9% for the allied lineup with the highest proportion of losses. So again, simply, you have 5 lineups. I have a report saved here, which I'm gonna go over throughout this video. So we go here to the battle record. Here are the 5 lineups. You have lineup 1, lineup 2, lineup 3, lineup 4, lineup 5, and it will heal, say, A2. So if we go down to 11 seconds, which is one of the first heals, if I remember correctly, it will say, yeah, this dragon attack triggered Dragon Assist, ally A2 lineup healed 1,365 infantry. So that had the most losses at the time, right here, so it will heal there. What has the most losses can depend on a few things, so like weakness attacks, hitting a lineup can cause it, or just taking actives that counter the troop type on the front. So say it was like Layla there, hitting into it, that would be cav damage into imp, so it would take more damage. Or say Layla double procs lats casting actives. There's a bunch of factors that could cause it, but whatever lineup has the most defeated troops at the time will be what will receive the healing. So we go back to the tooltip again. So if we read this again, it's a 40% chance, and it will heal this listed percentage of the defeated troops on that lineup to the corresponding lineup that's had the most losses at the time. Right. To this point, what I've said is pretty damn obvious to most people watching this video, I would imagine. I'm going to make it a lot more complicated. So I have testing done in regards to this report in a notepad file. Yeah, lots of numbers. So I'll try and explain what's going on here. So first of all, as just a general background to this report, it's mono imp on mono imp. I sent 500k troops at it, just for simplicity of numbers more than anything. There is follow-up and tear, so there's multiple routes to proccing assist, so potentially it will proc more than normal because of that. If you're running like only flame, you won't realistically have this many procs. Most of the time at least, it is a RNG mechanic, so you can't take anything from here, any of the numbers as gospel. The numbers will obviously vary depending on the casualties you have throughout a fight as well. In this fight I win fairly heavily, not insanely heavily, so I have about 160k losses to 320k. Obviously I could still win that and have 300k losses. If so, I would heal even more troops through the fight, and on the same note I could have lost 10k troops and assist would have been able to heal basically nothing. But yeah, if we go back to this, I'll try to explain what is going on here. So in combat healing is a fairly abstract concept. There's the obvious components to it. So the heal can proc weakness attacks through Jamie. That's one part of it. It is basically irrelevant in practice because it only heals one lineup, and when Lat starts healing, she'll heal all 5 lineups from 14 seconds to 40 seconds constantly without any help from any other healing sources. If you have her weapon, she'll heal from 11 seconds to 40 seconds without the help of any other healing sources. So only heals in that first like 10 seconds really have any relevance in terms of weakness damage. So assist won't really help there, but it is a part of it. It is a slight bonus. But I think how most people visualizing combat healing is reducing your dead effectively. So say you attack someone with let's say 1 more troops and 200k die, but you heal 20k through the fight, so you therefore only lost 120k dead in the end, right? So if they had 190k dead on their side and you had this healing mechanic, you would win in this scenario and you would lose in this scenario. That's a very rough way of looking at it, but that is one way you can interpret how healing works, and it is somewhat true, but it's obviously a lot more complicated than that. So I do include the maths on that too, like the healing that actually goes on and how that will help you in fights, but with a little bit of janky mathematics, I'll say, you can figure out effectively how in-combat healing mechanics contribute as army size indirectly. So hang on with me for a minute. So to figure out this number and how this works, you can say, if we go back here, so fights last 40 seconds in GoTWiC. Fights last 40 seconds. Say you heal 1,000 troops at 20 seconds. You're getting the value of those 1,000 troops for half the fight. So 20 divided by 40 seconds will equals 0.5, or effectively 50% of the fight. Effectively, through this, you can consider this calculation as the amount of average value these troops will bring through the fight. So in this scenario, this heal will effectively be 500 army size over the fight, because for the first 20 seconds you have no troops, and for the last 20 seconds you have 1,000 troops. So that averages out to being 500 extra troops over the fight. I hope that somewhat makes sense and is somewhat understandable. In my messed up brain, it does at least. So I hope you're following to some degree. Now, I've done the maths on exactly how healing happened in this report. So assist procced 7 times in total here. It syncs up fairly closely with active castings through the fight, which would mean it was proccing mostly off follow-up. So actives will cast at 11, 21, 30 and 40 seconds, so there's quite a lot of correlation there. And as I showed down here with the maths, at 9 seconds it heals, say, 632 troops, so we go to 9 seconds. Here, dragon hits, triggers follow-up, heals 632 infantry. So, because it's at 9 seconds, there's 31 seconds remaining of the fight, of the 40 seconds, so you do 31 divided by 40, and that is 77.5% of the fight left. So you divide that decimal by the heal, and you therefore are gaining, effectively, in practice, about 500 extra troops through the fight. So you can see as you scroll down, the heals gradually get bigger and bigger as the fight goes on, because you're losing more troops, obviously, so it's healing more because it goes off a percentage of dead troops, but of course the amount of time left in the fight is also reducing simultaneously, so it averages out fairly closely to about 1,000 extra troops per assist proc. It's about 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here. This is 500 below, but then this is 500 above. So each proc in this fight is about 1k army size, and this is only with 500k troops, remember. So if this was like a 1 mil solo march, you could scale this up by ×2 if the percentage of losses was the same at least. So each proc would be about 2k army size in that case, which sounds really good when you actually think about it, and it is. Of course, as I said before, all these numbers are very specific to this report, and you really can't think of them as gospel because it will vary so much depending on the amount of casualties you have and your luck in actually proccing off that 40% chance. But it's just a way of, I think, getting your head around what this skill is actually bringing you. Oh my god, this is a complicated video. I really do hope you're following along and I'm not rambling that much. So I have here exactly how many troops were healed over the course of the fight. So of the 500k I sent, 24k were healed over the fight, which is about 5% of my initial troops. And remember, this is only with one instance of the level 8 skill. If it was 9, it would have healed about 32k troops of the 500k, or 6.4% of my initial troops, and it's not really possible. But if it was fully capped in a rally, which is 30%, it would have been about 80k of my 500k troops, which is a lot, or 16% of the initial troops. If you visualize that 16% and scale it up to like a rally, it'll be what, say, so top accounts right now in like CCS, they're rallying like 7 mil, so that would be 10% is 700k, 5 is 350, it would be about 1.1 million troops healed across the fight with a fully stacked Dragon Assist, which is mental when you think about it. Over 1 million healing. That is crazy. And then you can see below the maths I do, which include the uptime for the in practice army size calculations. So it's basically this skill in this report increased my effective army size over the fight by about 1%, so about 0.2% per proc. Again, if you scale that up to a 7 mil rally, because again, this is only one instance of the level 8 skill, for a 7 mil rally, this would be effectively the equivalent of 233,000 extra army size, which is massive. That's like a fully stacked army size in refinement, basically, which is a lot of troops. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's a lot of maths to get your head around, but basically it will bring a lot of healing, which will help sway reports in your favor, obviously. When troops heal, they will act as like ghost troops, obviously, and when they die, your losses will be reduced through that. But also the army size it will bring, just from like bringing troops back to continue doing damage, will really help. So it's not just healing, like the healing will effectively cause you to do more damage from troops coming back to deal damage, if that makes sense. And yeah, ironically, after all this, when I do that Dragon Skill tier list video, Assist won't even be one of the top choices in there, but when you do have the synergy skills to enable it, it does become one of the better picks. So I think for people who have, say, 4 or 5 Legion skills or more in their Dragon, at this point you are going to want to have Assist in there somewhere, but it does need the enablers to make it good before you actually get it. If you have no skills, you're going to want reinforcement, you're going to want reroute, stuff like that before you actually touch this. But when you have things set up, this is definitely going to be one of the best picks for your Dragon out there.